G'day, this video is going to be a bit different. We'll had a few questions about ETS, pine trees and carbon credits, things like that. So I endeavour to run you through a whole bunch of different stuff on this video. So we'll start off with the cost of planting pine trees, what it costed us exactly, the companies we used, and then we'll run into ETS returns, so carbon credit returns on the production forestry, so the pines that we've planted, with the difference between having a production forestry crop and then having them in the ETS as a permanent forest. And then we'll also talk about some native, so some of the stuff out the back out here, we've got that in the ETS in indigenous forestry, or indigenous category, which is native. The regen forestry stuff, and then we'll talk about some sheep and beef returns and explain kind of why people were going down the forestry and the ETS track with the shitty returns we've got.
We'll run through what it costs to get one of these little buggers in the ground. These are all per hectare costs. So pre-op mapping, council negotiations, $37 a hectare. Pre-spray gorse and grass, it's about $400 a hectare. Radiata pine planting, we planted 833 stems a hectare. So seedlings cost 64 cents each, that's $558 a hectare. Planting labour, 84 cents a tree, $700 a hectare. So organisation from FML Forest Management Limited, our company that we contracted to organise this whole forestry venture, was $332 a hectare. Release spray in the summer will be $400 a hectare. ETS registration for all this area is $162 a hectare. In the autumn they'll come back and do a survey of the survivability of the trees, so that is $30 a hectare. And then we also have a contingency in there as well, so some post-planting, if we need to replant some areas, that's about $300 a hectare as well. So total costs being $2,919 per hectare. So this didn't include any fencing costs or tracking that you might need to do if you were planting an area of pines as well.
When we look at emissions trading scheme, you can go onto the MPI website, and on the MPI website there is all the carbon tables. So these are the default carbon tables for carbon stock per hectare for post 1989 forest land. This first table here is for Pinus radiata. Up the top you've got all the different regions: Auckland, Waikato, Bay of Plenty, Gisborne, Nelson Marlborough, that'd be Hawke's Bay, Canterbury, West Coast, Otago and Southland. Each area has different growth rates of pine trees and hence sequestration rates. So this is our table here. We're looking at Canterbury West Coast. These are based on Irwell and Balmoral forests. So they are updating these tables as we speak. So as we go down for our production forestry, we can only claim up to year 17 or year 16, which gives us 205 tonnes of carbon sequestered per hectare.
So the reason we only go to year 17 is because the carbon left over between year 17 and year 25 or 30 when you harvest is essentially left on the forest floor after harvest. So it's only those 16 years that has been sequestered and that will be taken away and stored in timber. So we'll do some sums. 206 tonnes of carbon sequestered over the 16-year lifespan at the carbon price today out of the Farmers Weekly is $56.7 per tonne, which is $11,680. If we take off our $3,000 establishment costs, that gives us a profit over the 16 years of $8,680. which is $289 per hectare per year over the life of the whole forest, 30-year lifespan. Of course, carbon does not work in a linear pattern either. It is more like a bell-shaped curve, so you'll get more sequestration in the middle years of a forest than you will in the first years or the last years.
But if we were going to go down and do it as a permanent forest, you can claim permanent carbon all the way up to year 50, which is 1,028 tonnes per hectare.
So if you times that by the carbon price, gives you $58,287, less the establishment costs, gives you $55,287, which is $1,105 per hectare per year over the 50-year period. So we'll go back to the production forestry. After 30 years, we can harvest them. So if we work on $25,000 of profit per hectare of pine plantation, so that's after transport costs, selling fees, harvesting, all the shebang, and we plus our $8,680 worth of carbon on top of that, which gives us $33,680 of profit generated over 30 years of that forest, which per hectare was $1,122 per hectare per year profit. For those sums, you're actually $100 per hectare per year better off putting in production forestry than you are long-term permanent forestry.
So since we're talking about the ETS, we'll run you through our Indigenous ETS that we currently have. So we've got 42 hectares of registered Indigenous native ETS. So if we scroll down, 50-year lifespan as well, you can get a total of 323 tonnes of carbon sequestered, so you can claim carbon credits on that.
So if we put some numbers around that, that's $366 per hectare per year just in native ETS.
So with the Beef and Lamb Economic Survey report, we're classed as Class 2, Canterbury Hill Country land, farm. So this is what it is. So we're mainly talking about Class 7 and 8 land, wee bit of Class 6. Yeah, so if you don't know the class system, go and have a quick Google New Zealand land class 1 to 8, 1 to 9, something like that. So a lot of this stuff would be Class 7 or Class 8 land out the back out here, and then Class 6 probably the easier country. But all the numbers and stuff I'm putting together pretty much based on our farm here, our experiences, and having gorse and broom that you've got to continuously spray and maintain. That takes a lot of our cost, a lot of work.
So let's put some numbers around this. From the Beef and Lamb Economic Survey, Class 2 South Island Hill Country land, so the best of the best are achieving an economic farm surplus of about $15 per stock unit. On our country, on our hill country, we run 6 stock units a hectare, so 15 times 6 is in profit per hectare per year of $90. You compare that with a profit from even the native at $366 per year, or continuous pine plantations for $1,105 per year, or production forestry where you're harvesting at $1,122 per year. You can see the real disconnect and what hill country sheep and beef farmers are facing at the moment. So hopefully that helps put a bit of forestry stuff into perspective, and it shows a bit of the hardships and the tough times that sheep and beef farmers have been facing. The data that I put up was from the 2023-2024 season from Beef and Lamb. So things are relatively similar to that. You know, it looks good for the next season, but who knows what's going to really pan out. So that's why there's so much pressure from forestry on Class 6, 7 and 8 land in New Zealand at the moment, and the ETS. But I'm not advocating for whole farm conversions. I just want to put that out there. I'm advocating for the ability to use ETS in a sheep and beef farming system, which will allow us to remain profitable, and it's another source of income that's not protein. Thanks for watching. Hopefully cleared up a few things, and yeah, any questions, just chuck them in the comments below, and I'll endeavour to either do another video or answer them as we go. So thanks very much. Catch you in the next video.